What if I told you there is a place on Earth where time stopped on a single spring night in 1986 and never truly moved forward again? A place where abandoned kindergartens still echo with silence, where Ferris wheels never carried laughing children, and where the wind carries an invisible ghost that lingers even today. Chernobyl. For many, the word itself has become synonymous with disaster. But the truth of what happened there and what it means for humanity is far more complex, far more unsettling, and far more fascinating than you might imagine. Because this is not just the story of an explosion. It's the story of secrecy, of sacrifice, of nature's resilience, and of an enemy that can't be seen, can't be touched, and yet shapes our world even now. It was 1:23 a.m., April 26, 1986. Inside the control room of reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, engineers were preparing for a safety test. A test meant to ensure that, in case of a power loss, the plant could still cool its reactor. But the RBMK reactor they operated was inherently unstable at low power, something the Soviet Union kept secret. Combined with rushed instructions, tired workers, and ignored safety protocols, this test became a deadly gamble. As they shut down the reactor, the power dropped dangerously low. The operators tried to recover it, but instead triggered a surge. In less than a minute, the reactor's output skyrocketed to levels no system could contain. At 1:23:58, the reactor exploded. The blast hurled a steel lid weighing over 1,000 tons into the air. Graphite blocks from the core were scattered across the facility, glowing in the night. Flames leapt skyward, painting the horizon in eerie colors. But what escaped into the atmosphere was far worse than fire. A cloud of radioactive material, invisible to the human eye, began drifting across Ukraine, Belarus, and eventually Europe. The scale was staggering. The explosion released radiation estimated to be 400 times greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Only this time, the radiation didn't come and go in a single instant. It would bleed into the air for days. Within minutes, firefighters rushed to the plant. They had no protective gear, no radiation suits, no idea what they were facing. For them, it was just another fire. But this fire was like no other. Witnesses described strange lights dancing above the reactor. Blue and red flames, caused by ionized air. Firemen climbed roofs littered with graphite blocks, each one so radioactive it could kill within hours. Some began to feel symptoms almost immediately: nausea, dizziness, vomiting, and that metallic taste in the mouth, a signature of high-dose radiation exposure. Among them was 25-year-old Vasily Ignatenko. He and his comrades fought heroically, but within weeks, most of them were dead. Their bodies were buried in sealed zinc coffins because even in death, they remained dangerously radioactive. Meanwhile, in the nearby city of Pripiat, life continued as normal. Families went about their day. Children played outside, under a contaminated sky. Couples enjoyed weddings, not realizing radioactive dust had settled on their clothes. For 36 long hours, they lived as if nothing had happened, while their bodies quietly absorbed the invisible poison. And before we uncover what happened when the truth could no longer be hidden, let me quickly invite you. If you'd like to support 5 Minutes of Culture and help us bring more of these forgotten yet crucial stories to light, consider becoming a member. You'll get access to exclusive content and be part of preserving history. But Chernobyl had a silent enemy: radiation. Unlike fire, it doesn't immediately burn the skin. Unlike gas, it doesn't choke the lungs. You can't see it, smell it, or taste it. And yet, it changes life at the most fundamental level: the DNA of every cell. At the site of the reactor, radiation levels reached 20,000 Roentgens per hour. To put that into perspective, a dose of 500 Roentgens is enough to kill a human within weeks. At Chernobyl's core, such a dose was delivered in less than 2 minutes. But the evacuation of Pripiat didn't come until the afternoon of April 27th, more than a day later. Over 49,000 residents boarded buses, told they would return in a few days. None ever went back. Their homes, their schools, their pets all left behind in a ghost city that remains frozen in time. Yet the tragedy didn't stop at Pripiat. The radioactive cloud spread across borders. Sweden was the first to detect unusual radiation levels, forcing the Soviet Union to admit what had happened. Without Sweden, the world might have remained in the dark for weeks longer. In the years that followed, the effects of this invisible enemy became undeniable. Thyroid cancer cases in children skyrocketed. Thousands of workers known as liquidators faced devastating health consequences. And across Europe, a silent fear settled. If this could happen in one place, could it happen anywhere? Containing the disaster required something unprecedented. Hundreds of thousands of liquidators were mobilized. Soldiers, firefighters, miners, and engineers. Many had no choice. They dug tunnels under the reactor to prevent further explosions. They climbed onto radioactive rooftops, each man given only 90 seconds to shovel debris before collapsing from exposure. They called these men biorobots because machines could not survive the radiation. One of the most haunting sights deep within the ruins became known as the Elephant's Foot, a massive blob of molten nuclear fuel and reactor material. In 1986, standing near it for even a few minutes meant certain death. Decades later, it remains so radioactive that extended contact is still lethal. The sarcophagus built around Reactor 4 in the months after the disaster was meant to last decades, but cracks appeared and radioactive dust continued to escape. Only in 2016 was a new steel structure, the largest movable building ever constructed, slid into place over the reactor. Even now, inside, the remains of the core continue to smolder. And scientists warn, dismantling and neutralizing what lies within could take a century or more. Step into the exclusion zone today, and it feels like entering another world. Pripiat remains frozen, toys on beds, plates on tables, schoolbooks left open. A Ferris wheel, once planned for a May Day celebration in 1986, never carried a single rider. But outside the silent city, something remarkable happened. Nature returned. Wolves, bears, lynxes, wild horses, animals rarely seen in Europe, now roam the forests of Chernobyl. Without humans, ecosystems have flourished. And yet, it is not a true paradise. Radiation lingers in the soil. Some plants and mushrooms absorb dangerous amounts of cesium and strontium. Certain animals exhibit genetic mutations, although many populations appear remarkably resilient. For scientists, the zone has become a living laboratory, a chance to study how life adapts or fails to adapt to one of the most hostile environments created by humans. But is this resurgence proof of nature's strength, or is it simply masking an environment still poisoned for tens of thousands of years? Chernobyl was more than an industrial accident. It was a turning point in world history. It shattered trust in Soviet secrecy. It revealed the cost of hiding the truth. And for many historians, it became one of the accelerators of the Soviet Union's eventual collapse. It also forced the world to re-examine nuclear power. Some countries abandoned it. Others doubled down, convinced the lessons had been learned. But history has a way of repeating itself. In 2011, Fukushima reminded us that nuclear power, though efficient, carries risks that can spiral out of control. And so the questions remain. What other dangers do we dismiss because they are invisible? What risks do we accept today, thinking we can control them, until it's too late? And most importantly, did we really learn from Chernobyl, or did we simply choose to forget? Chernobyl is not just about the past. It is about the fragility of our systems, the courage of those who sacrificed, and the resilience and vulnerability of the natural world. If this journey into the Forbidden Zone left you questioning, don't forget to subscribe to 5 Minutes of Culture. Every week, we uncover the hidden stories that still shape us. Because sometimes, the past doesn't stay buried.